most demand for, keeping their private opinions for the back shop, where through lack of use they gradually lost substance and color. The fourth generation of Ralstons had nothing left in the way of conviction save an acute sense of honor in private and business matters. On the life of the community and the state they took their daily views from the newspapers, and the newspapers they already despised. The Ralstons had done little to shape the destiny of their country, except to finance the cause when it had become safe to do so. They were related to many of the great men who had built up the Republic, but no Ralston had so far committed himself as to be great. As old John Frederick said, it was safer to be satisfied with 3%. They regarded heroism as a form of gambling. Yet, by merely being so numerous and so similar, they had come to have a weight in the community. People said, "the Ralstons," when they wished to invoke a precedent. The attribution of authority had gradually convinced the third generation of its collective importance, and the fourth, to which Delia Ralston's husband belonged, had the ease and simplicity of a ruling class. Within the limits of their universal caution, the Ralstons fulfilled their obligations as rich and respected citizens. They figured on the boards of all the old established charities, gave handsomely to thriving institutions, had the best cooks in New York, and when they traveled abroad, ordered statuary of the American sculptors in Rome, whose reputation had already been established. The first Ralston who had brought home a statue had been regarded as a wild fellow, but when it became known that the sculptor had executed several orders for the British aristocracy, it was felt in the family that this, too, was a 3% investment. 2 marriages with the Dutch Vandergraves had consolidated these qualities of thrift and handsome living, and the carefully built-up Ralston character was now so congenital that Delia Ralston sometimes asked herself whether, were she to turn her own little boy loose in a wilderness, he would not create a small New York there, and be on all its boards of directors. Delia Lovell had married James Ralston at 20. The marriage, which had taken place in the month of September, 1840, had been solemnized, as was then the custom, in the drawing-room of the bride's country home, at what is now the corner of Avenue A and 91st Street, overlooking the Sound. Thence her husband had driven her, in Grandma Lovell's canary-colored coach with a fringed hammercloth, through spreading suburbs and untidy elm-shaded streets to one of the new houses in Gramercy Park, which the pioneers of the younger set were just beginning to effect. And there, at 25, she was established, the mother of 2 children, the possessor of a generous allowance of pin money, and by common consent one of the handsomest and most popular young matrons, as they were called, of her day. She was thinking placidly and gratefully of these things as she sat one afternoon in her handsome bedroom in Gramercy Park. She was too near to the primitive Ralstons to have as clear a view of them as, for instance, the son in question might one day command. She lived under them as unthinkingly as one lives under the laws of one's country. Yet that tremor of the muted keyboard, that secret questioning which sometimes beat in her like wings, would now and then so divide her from them that for a fleeting moment she could survey them in their relation to other things. The moment was always fleeting. She dropped back from it quickly, breathless and a little pale, to her children, her housekeeping, her new dresses, and her kindly Jim. She thought of him today with a smile of tenderness, remembering how he had told her to spare no expense on her new bonnet. Though she was 25 and twice a mother, her image was still surprisingly fresh. The plumpness then thought seemly in a young wife stretched the gray silk across her bosom, and caused her heavy gold watch chain, after it left the anchorage of the brooch of St. Peter's in mosaic that fastened her low-cut Cluny collar, to dangle perilously in the void above a tiny waist buckled into a velvet waistband. But the shoulders above sloped youthfully under her cashmere scarf, and every movement was as quick as a girl's. Mrs. Jim Ralston approvingly examined the rosy-cheek ovals set in the blonde ruffles of the bonnet on which, in compliance with her husband's instructions, she had spared no expense. It was a cabriolet of white velvet tied with wide satin ribbons and plumed with a crystal-spangled marabout, a wedding bonnet ordered for the marriage of her cousin, Charlotte Lovell, which was to take place that week.